Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to cover the second part of the currency. So what we are going to do, let me show you. So this is the currency part 2, and in this part we are going to configure the currency exchange rate providers. This is one of the this is the fourth way basically by which we can create the currency exchange rate by the different providers available in the Dynamics. Before talking about that today's topic, just want to recap that what we have discussed in last video or in the first video of the currency exchange rate creation. So we have already shown how we can create the currency exchange rate manually through the Excel edit and through the data management, export and import. So this first point we have already covered in the first session of our first video that is already uploaded in my YouTube channel. You can refer that video. Now the second point that we are going to cover in today's session are configure exchange rate providers. So basically there are three providers currently available in the Dynamics, and one of them is required an API to be configured. Okay, so we'll talk about that also. So first one is the Central Bank of Russian Federation. So we'll directly import the data from the Central Bank of Russian Federation. How we can do that, we'll see in the session. The second is the Central Bank of Europe. So we'll do the same thing with the Central Bank of Europe, with the euro currency and with the OANDA rates. So OANDA rates is something a third party vendor for which we required basically an API ID to configure in the system. So these are the second topic basically we are going to cover in the today's session. So there is a different setup altogether. Okay, so if we can see over here, we have a configure exchange rate provider. Okay, what is happening over here, like we are putting manually, okay, or else I can get the data from my RBI or some third party vendor, and then we are defining the same thing in the Excel, and then we are uploading whether manually Excel edit or through the data management. But we have the provider as well. Okay, so provider is nothing but kind of a third party vendor. So right now, if you can see, as per the Dynamics standard, we have these three. Okay, Central Bank of Russian Federation, Central Bank of Europe, and OANDA. So what is basically right now the functionality is like if we'll add these two, okay, Central Bank of Russian Federation and Central Bank of Europe. So there is no UPI is needed or integration is needed. But when we are talking about the OANDA, it is required an API key. What is the scenario would be like? I have to firstly define what are the providers, right? Whether it is directly or indirectly. What does it mean if I'm talking about direct and indirect? So if you can see over here, if I'll go to the same page, okay, we have a Central Bank of Russian Federation and Central Bank of Europe. So it is a kind of a direct data that Dynamics has linked with. Okay, so what it will be happen if I'll pull out exchange rate. So as we see that Central Bank of Europe only give the conversion with the euro with the other currencies. Okay, and this is Central Bank of Russian Federation will give you only with the Russian Federation currency and with the other currencies. So let's say if I'm talking about if I want a currency exchange rate where I have the all combinations, all pairs of foreign currency. Okay, so in that case it is not acceptable. Okay, but we have the alternative ways, and third way is OANDA rate. Okay, so let me go one by one. So let's say I have just what I have to do. I have just click on the new, so it will give you whatever the exchange rate provider will be over here. So I have already configured this, that's why it is blank over here. But firstly, we have to click over here as new. It will show the list, whatever the list. So it will show all three lists over here. But before that, what I have done basically, if I'll talk about, I have created a different exchange rate separately. So it not create any confusion. So if I'll go to the exchange rate type, if you can see, I have defined as a euro. Okay, I have defined as a RUB, that is Russian Federation Bank, and this is for OANDA. Okay, so where we can use this? So we have three setups basically. Firstly, we have to define the exchange rate type. Okay, then
or we can use the same exchange rate type, I mean default one also, but for the demo purpose I'm just putting a separate, so it will not create any confusion if it is updating the value. Okay. The second setup is like I have to do a configuration. So I have to just click on new and it will come over here. Okay. So if you can see, these two links will come automatically. Then after the provider, we have the option called import currency exchange rate. Okay. So once I'll click over here, import currency exchange rate, here is something called exchange rate type. Okay. So let's say I'm not talking about the OANDA first. I'm taking one by one. So let's say I'm just taking as a euro. Okay. So this will be my exchange rate type. So whatever the data I will import, it will goes only to this particular exchange rate type. Okay. This is the exchange rate provider that I have just created in the second step. So here I'll define as Central Bank of Europe. Okay. Once I'll select over here the exchange rate provider, if you can see, there are different ways. Okay. Import as a date. So it will take as today's date basically. Okay. If I want to define only, if I want to pull out the report only today's date, I can that also. I have the option, and other if I want to date range, that I want exchange rate between these month or these days. Okay. So I can do that also. So for the time being, I can define, let's say for this month, for December month, for November month, I want. So what I'll do, I'll click, select the date range over here for November. Okay, 30th till 30th November. Then we have a create necessary currency pairs. So when we are doing a manually adding a currency exchange rate, correct? So we have to search it whether it is already there in the system or not, correct? So what it will do basically, if it is there, pair is there, then it will automatically update your rate as per the date range. Okay, whatever the exchange rate would be. Other option is there that if the pair is not there, then we have the option to create a necessary currency pair. So when I click yes, system will automatically create the pairs, okay, and pull the currency exchange rate. And this is override existing exchange rate. Let's say I have already defined the currency exchange rate between USD to INR in this month. Okay, so if I want to override that one, then then I have to put it as yes. Otherwise, it will be no. Okay. Then it is something a single date range. Okay. If I want to define on the single date range over here, and it is import on a prevent import on a national holiday. So if I want that, I don't want to exchange rate to be defined in the system on the holidays, right? So I can prevent over here also. Yeah. Okay. And rate from the previous date, it is like once I'm doing today's date over here as a import as today's date. So if I want to take only the previous date, if you can see, select this checkbox to import the currency exchange rate that is published by the European Central Bank on the previous working day at approximately 4 p.m. around. Okay. So this is it. I mean the filtrations options we have. Once I'll click on OK, see what will system do. So if you can see, after importing of the data, it's showing us operation completed and it's showing the number of exchange rate imported. If you can see, the currency pair was created for currency euro to ZAR. So the currency exchange rate provider is a euro, correct? Europe, I mean to say. So that's why the base currency they have considered as euro, and after that they are providing the data. So if I'll go to again my dynamics. So that was just a notification. So if I'll go to the currency exchange rates again over here. Okay. If I'll change the euro as a currency exchange rate type, if you can see over here, it is automatically taking. Okay. I have not created any pair or I have not defined any currency exchange rate. It is coming automatically. Okay. So this is one exchange rate provider. Another is we have Russian Federation. So for that also we have the same functionality. Okay. If I'm talking about the Russian Federation, we have already configured this also. So only we have to do the same thing with the import currency exchange rate. Okay. And for this also, let's say I'm just changing the currency exchange rate type as RUB. Okay, and it will be like Russian Federation over here, Central Bank of Russian Federation. Okay, then there will be a date range, the same date range I have given, and the same options also for the Russian Federation also. Okay, so if I click on as OK, now it will be importing the data in my different exchange rate type that I have created only for the purpose of demo, that is RUB. So just give a moment. So it will take time as per the data that you are pulling, basically, because we might face issue or the question from the client that why it is taking so much time. Correct. So it is depend on the data, how much data you are going to import. So this is imported. Okay. Then currency exchange rate. So now if I'll go to the change currency exchange rate type as Russian Federation. So again, if you can see, it is coming over here automatically, and whatever that range of date we have given. Now we come to the OANDA. So there is a minor changes in the OANDA. We have the same process, okay, but right now as we have seen that for these two providers we don't require any integration or API. So what is the OANDA basically? So OANDA is a kind of a third-party vendor. So what it is doing is basically, let's say I have the contacts of 10 central banks of other countries, correct? So I'll take out the data, okay, I'll publish on my website simply, and then I'll sell out to my customer as like, let's say I'm just going to buy the subscription or the API key, correct? So I have to pay the subscription for that, and they will give me the API key, and the same API key I have to define over here. If I'll talk about the OANDA one, if you can see. So if when I'm clicking on new, okay, the API is blank. I have just put it as a dummy API over here. Okay, it is not a actual API. So these three lines will come automatically, decimal places and service timeout. Okay, it will be blank. So we have to just take the API key from the OANDA, okay, and then after we have to put over here. This is the simple one thing. But when we are going to import the currency exchange rate, and if I'll define the exchange rate, let's say I have just created exchange rate type as a OANDA, okay. Before going to import, what is happen is going to basically, if you can see right now, I am a Central Bank of Russian Federation or whatever it is, the second one. I have the option to create the currency pairs, correct? Or I have the option to other options also, okay? But once I'll choose over here as a OANDA, okay? What is happening? I don't have the option to create the currency pair, okay? So it simply means they have the data, they have the pairs of all currencies, irrelevant of country's central bank, okay? So what we have to do, we have to take the requirement of the client that in which currency they are dealing with their customer and in which currency they want to currency exchange rate to be defined in the system, basically. So according to that, they have to at least create the pair first of all. So if I go to the currency exchange rate type or currency exchange rate, so firstly I have to create the currency exchange rate in which I want to import the data. So if I go to the currency exchange rates, only the difference between these two and OANDA is basically I have to define over as OANDA, okay, and I have to define manually the currency pair. So let's say I have a client where they are dealing with the AED and USD. So only they want a currency exchange rate to be defined on these two currency with the base currency of INR. Then only I will create these two currency, okay, and then only I'll define the same thing. I mean, the filter is the same. Import as it, whether I want to import on today's date or whether I want a date range, okay. But these options are disabled, if you can see, okay. So if I click on OK, right now it will give you an error because the API key is not correct, okay, but it will show you what is the error. So this is the way how we can import from the OANDA as well, okay. If you can see over here, it is showing operation completed. but it is 0 imported because the API is wrong. Okay. And why so many? Because we have selected the date range, right? So if you can see 30th November, 29th November, okay, and the currency is INR and USD. And if I scroll down, it will give you the error for the INR and AED. So only these two transactions. So it is kind of a 62 notification. So 30 is kind of a total is number of days is 62 or 61 near about for 1 month, because we have selected two pairs. So that's why these number of notification it is coming. So I mean to say, if there will be only one pair like USD to INR, then only it will throw you error as well as if it is get success, it will show you how much data you have imported over here.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you feel that anything is need to be asked, then you can contact me. This is my phone number and this is my personal email ID. I hope this video will enhance some knowledge in your bucket. So hope do you like it this video. Please share with your friend and your colleague. Thank you so much for watching Dynamics Tech.